My girlfriend and I were on our way to her parents' house. I'd been invited to Thanksgiving dinner with them, something I saw as a huge honor, considering I'd only met her mom and dad 3 times before. But this time, it wasn't just them. Her grandparents would be there, aunts, uncles, people I'd never even seen in a photo. That made me nervous, really nervous. It was a long drive from my place to theirs, an hour if we were lucky. About 45 minutes into the trip, we had to make a quick stop for gas. We pulled into this tiny, beat-up Gulf station just off the highway. It looked practically dead. Not abandoned exactly, but close. No other cars, no flickering signs, just stillness. The kind that hums in your ears when there's nothing else around. I figured I'd do my car a little favor and go for premium this time. Yeah, it was pricier, but it was cheaper if you paid with cash, so I grabbed my wallet and stepped inside. The second I opened the door, something felt off. There was this stale, quiet air inside, like the air hadn't been disturbed in days. Head down, I thumbed through my wallet, trying to find a 10 and a 20. My fingers found the bills, and as I pulled them out, I looked up, ready to say 30 on 2. But the words caught in my throat. There was no one behind the counter. Not a soul. I blinked and scanned the small space. No bell to ring, no radio playing behind the counter, just silence. Still thinking maybe they'd stepped away for a second, I called out, "Anyone there?" Nothing. I looked for a back office or an employees-only door, where the staff might be grabbing a soda or checking inventory. But there wasn't one, just the counter. And the only other door, besides the entrance I came through, was a bathroom door. It stood wide open. Darkness poured out from inside like a spill of ink, thick and black. I couldn't see anything past the threshold. No light, no sound. Still, I told myself maybe the cashier had stepped out for a smoke or to grab something outside. Trying to shake the unease, I went back out and glanced over at my girlfriend, shrugging to let her know I had no idea what was going on. She gave me a puzzled look, and I turned to scan the area for clues. A portable toilet? An ice machine? Some reason for the cashier to be out back? Nothing. The place was small, tiny really. Just a lone gas station surrounded by trees, dense foliage stretching out in almost every direction. And in that moment, standing there with the pump still untouched and the air hanging thick with quiet, I felt something I hadn't expected to feel on a Thanksgiving road trip. Alone. And watched. I thought maybe, just maybe, someone was behind the building having a smoke, a bogey, maybe even a doobie. People wander off for that kind of thing all the time, right? So I walked around to the back of the station, one last attempt to find someone. But no. There was nothing back there except a dented old dumpster sitting beneath a dim, flickering roof light. The glow it cast didn't help. It only made the shadows stretch longer, feel heavier. The kind of light that barely touches the darkness, like it's afraid of it. That was it for me. I figured I'd just forget the cash and use my card instead. I turned to head back, and that's when I heard it. A voice. From out in the woods. It wasn't loud, more like a whisper, but it carried just enough to make my blood freeze. Hey, hey. It came again. Hey. It wasn't playful, it wasn't friendly, it was urgent, croaky, like someone trying to be heard without wanting anyone else to hear. It sounded just close enough to be real. My heart skipped, actually skipped. My pulse started hammering as I slowly pulled out my phone, fumbling with the screen before I managed to switch on the flashlight. The beam shook as I raised it. With a trembling hand, I aimed the light toward the tree line, just skimming the edge of the woods. The trees swayed gently, just enough to make it hard to tell if anything was really there. But I kept the beam moving, slow and cautious. And then, for just a split second, there was someone peeking from behind a tree, just far enough away to be hard to see, but close enough that I knew they were looking straight at me. I didn't wait. I didn't think. I turned and ran. I sprinted back to the car, yanked the door open, slammed it behind me, and jammed my foot on the gas. We flew out of there. My girlfriend jolted, panic already rising in her face, just from how terrified I looked. She hadn't seen anything, but she felt it. The way my hands trembled on the steering wheel, the way I couldn't even speak right away. I finally told her what I saw, what I heard, that weird, breathy voice in the woods, and the shape behind the tree. From that point on, she kept glancing into the side mirrors, into the rear view, watching, making sure no one was following us. Neither of us said much after that, but the silence in the car, it wasn't empty. It was waiting. We pulled into the next gas station we could find, not too far down the road, but it felt like miles. This one actually looked alive, lit, a cashier visible through the window. The normalcy of it was almost surreal after what just happened. I headed inside, handed the guy $30, and walked back out to fill up. Just as I started pumping, a van pulled into the spot directly behind ours. It rolled to a slow stop, headlights washing across my back. I tried to ignore it, just focus on the numbers ticking up on the pump. But I could feel it, that sensation when someone's watching you, heavy, cold. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a man step out. He wore a cap pulled low over his face, and he didn't move once he got out of the van. He just stood there, staring right at me. At first, I pretended not to notice. I kept my head down, eyes on the gas meter, like maybe if I ignored it, it would stop. But it didn't. It kept going. 10 seconds, 15. By the time we hit 20 seconds of unbroken eye contact, I couldn't take it anymore. I turned my head and locked eyes with him. "Is there a problem?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He didn't respond, just turned away without a word. The moment the tank hit full, I yanked the pump out, climbed into the car, and hit the road again, fast. The ride to her parents' house was quiet after that. Anxious, but we made it, safe, no signs we were being followed. For a while, I thought maybe that would be the end of it, just a weird, messed-up incident in the middle of nowhere. But I wouldn't be telling this story if that were the case. A few weeks later, I couldn't shake the feeling, so I started doing some digging. I searched up crimes or anything strange related to that gas station. That's when I found it. A 33-year-old Indian man who had been working at the station was found murdered. His body had been stuffed deep in the woods behind the place, right where I'd heard that whisper, right where I'd seen someone hiding behind a tree. My stomach sank. I contacted the police immediately and gave them everything I could, the exact day and time I'd been there, and a full description of the man I saw behind the station. I was certain he had to have been caught on security cameras. They thanked me for the tip, but I never heard anything else. No arrest, no follow-up. And then, almost exactly 1 year later, on Thanksgiving, another gas station, another murder. Same eerie setup, different town. We started calling him the Thanksgiving Killer. And now, every year around this time, I feel that same cold in my chest, that same tension in my spine, because he's still out there. And I fear the worst once again this year, because the killer still hasn't been caught. Walmart draws in the weirdest people. It was Black Friday, which meant chaos, but it also meant deals, and me and my brothers had one mission: video game shopping. Our first and only stop was Walmart. The moment we walked in, the place felt like a zoo that had lost its cages. It wasn't just packed, it was mobbed. Bodies shoulder to shoulder, people barking at each other over TVs, kids screaming, carts slamming. But this wasn't just your average crowd. This was Walmart. So naturally, it was mobbed with the wrong kind of people. Grimy, loud, off. The kind of people who gave you the creeps without even doing anything specific. They were just there, breathing heavy, smelling weird, shouting nonsense, clawing over already cheap products to save a few extra bucks. We made our way toward the escalators that led upstairs to the electronics section. It felt like ascending into some kind of bizarre battleground. My target was the newest Call of Duty. My brothers were after something else. I don't even remember what. We split up slightly as we all scanned the game racks. That's when I noticed him. Out of nowhere, a heavy-set man, probably in his late 50s, shuffled toward me. His clothes looked slept in. His skin was sallow, oily. He reeked, an awful mix of sweat, something sour, and vomit. He stepped too close, leaned in, and said, "You like video games, huh?" His voice had a strange cadence to it, almost sing-song, but flat at the same time. I froze, then nodded once. "Yeah," I said quietly, already inching sideways. I wanted my body language to scream, "Not interested." But he didn't get the hint. "My son likes video games too," he said, his tone weirdly chipper. "Maybe you should come over and play some with him. He really craves company." His lips curled into a smile. Not a friendly smile. A smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. A smile that felt like it had been practiced too many times in a mirror. "Oh, no," I said quickly, trying to sound casual. "I'm not from around town." That was all I could think to say. I didn't want to keep this going, not even for another second. And honestly, I wasn't obligated to talk to this guy. Not here, not ever. So I gave him a forced smile, just enough to seem polite, then turned my head and called out, "Hey guys, yo!" I walked away fast, acting like I was rejoining my brothers, and luckily, they weren't far. Before I rounded the corner, I took a quick look back. He was still there, just standing in the middle of the aisle, staring at me, not moving. I picked up the pace, turning into the next aisle where my brothers were digging through a shelf of discount bins. The second I stood next to them, I felt this wave of relief. Safety, almost. Like stepping out of a dream where you couldn't scream and finally finding your voice. I stuck close. We waited around a bit until they finally found the game they were looking for. None of us said much, just nodded, checked our pockets for our wallets, and headed toward the checkout. But I couldn't shake that feeling, the one that creeps under your skin and doesn't leave, like eyes were still on me, even after I walked away. The lines were insane. No surprise there, it was Black Friday after all. I figured we were looking at a solid 10, maybe 15 minutes just to get to the registers. My brothers were fine waiting, but I decided to kill time checking out some of the jeans and t-shirt deals nearby. Nothing serious, just browsing. The further I walked, the quieter it got. The crowds were all bottlenecked near the checkout area, leaving some corners of the store almost deserted. I ended up in one of those forgotten little sections tucked behind a rack of clearance shirts. It was strangely peaceful for Walmart, like stepping into a pocket of silence. I was flipping through a row of plain black tees when, suddenly, a hand grabbed my arm, hard. It yanked me backward just enough to throw me off balance. I immediately thought it was one of my brothers screwing around. Typical move. Without even looking, I blurted, "Dude, fuck off!" But when I turned, it wasn't them. It was him. The same man from the game aisle, the one who smelled like sour rot. His hand was still clamped around my arm, fingers cold and clammy. And that smile? Still there, still wrong. My heart launched into my throat. Hey, let go!" I shouted, louder now. "I don't know this guy." I kept yelling, louder, panicked, trying to draw attention. "Help! I don't know him! Get away from me!" A few people turned. A couple even walked over, hovering awkwardly, watching. But no one did anything, just stared. And then, just like that, the man let go. No words, no expression. He just turned and walked away, melting back into the aisles like he hadn't just grabbed someone in a crowded store. I stood there, heart pounding, fists still clenched. I had no idea what he was thinking, what he wanted, but the fact that he did it in a public place, that was the part that got under my skin the most. It wasn't just creepy, it was bold. I didn't tell my brothers. I felt embarrassed, ashamed somehow, even though I hadn't done anything wrong. Still, they noticed something was off. I was quieter, off in my own head. They asked, but I just shook it off. "It's nothing," I kept saying. We headed out to the parking lot and climbed into my brother's Camaro. The second I sat down, I glanced back at the store entrance and froze. He was there, sitting on a bench right outside Walmart, facing the parking lot, facing me. Even with the car door shut, even through the glass, I could feel his eyes locked on mine. That same blank stare, that same unreadable look, like I was something on a shelf he hadn't decided whether or not to take home. We pulled out of the spot and began rolling toward the exit, which meant passing right in front of the entrance. I got one last look. As the car moved past, his head moved with it, slowly, just enough to keep facing me. Not the car, me. I couldn't take it anymore. I flipped him off through the window, hoping for some reaction, any reaction. But he didn't even flinch. He just kept staring, unbothered, unmoving. That was the last I ever saw of him. And even now, years later, I still think about it sometimes. Because Walmart? Yeah, Walmart attracts the weirdest people. It was Black Friday 2013, and I'd made the decision to become one of those people. You know, the ones who drag themselves out of bed at 3 a.m. for early bird deals. Home Depot was running some insane sales on artificial Christmas trees, and I thought it'd be a good opportunity to snag one for my family. They were opening their doors right at 3 a.m., 3 hours earlier than usual, just for the occasion. When I pulled into the lot, I was surprised to see barely anyone. Just me and one other guy standing near the entrance in the cold. I guess everyone else was swarming Best Buy or camping out at the mall. No competition here. Once the doors opened, I went straight for what I came for. I found a gorgeous 9-foot artificial Christmas tree. Normally $200, but marked down to $100 for the sale. Half off. Couldn't pass it up. I flagged down one of the few employees working that ungodly hour and asked if he could help me carry the massive box to the front. The guy was friendly, didn't mind at all. After we checked out, he helped me bring it all the way to my car. The parking lot was still weirdly empty for Black Friday. Kind of eerie in hindsight. It made me wonder if I had gone a little overboard getting here this early. Probably could have shown up at sunrise and still gotten the tree. I gave the guy a small tip for his help, then slid into my car, happy to be heading home. But just as I was about to start the engine, knock knock. I flinched a little. Someone was tapping on my window. I turned and saw a guy, mid-20s maybe, tall, dressed in black, with a beanie pulled low over his forehead. He leaned toward the window, and I cracked it just enough to hear him. "Hey, you got any change?" he asked. He didn't seem aggressive, more tired. His voice was low and casual, not pushy. I reached over to the little compartment between my seats, where I usually keep spare coins. Flipped it open. Empty, of course. I didn't really want to hand him a $10 bill or anything like that, so I shook my head. "Nah, man, sorry." His shoulders slumped a bit. He looked disappointed, and for a moment, I actually felt kind of bad. He wasn't rude about it or anything. Then he asked, "You think you could give me a lift to the nearest gas station?" I was nervous, no doubt about it. Letting a stranger into your car at 3 in the morning? Not exactly smart. But I let him in anyway. He climbed into the passenger seat without a word. No thanks, no nod, nothing. And yeah, I'll admit, that stung a little. Maybe it's dumb, but I guess I'm just sensitive like that. A simple thanks would have gone a long way in easing the weird vibe. Trying to stay cool, I asked, "You know any gas stations nearby?" He just said, "Nah." Flat, emotionless. We drove on in silence for a few seconds before I worked up the nerve to ask, "So, why do you need to get to a gas station?" Nothing. He didn't answer. He didn't even flinch. It wasn't like he hadn't heard me. He just ignored the question, like I hadn't spoken at all. Something about that chilled me. I stopped glancing over at him, didn't want to make eye contact anymore. My shoulders tensed, and I kept my eyes locked on the road, turning down one side street after another. Main roads, side roads, any road that might lead to a gas station. But there weren't any, not a single damn one. And all the while, I could feel it, that pressure on the side of my face. He was staring at me. I didn't see him doing it, but I didn't need to. Every stop sign I paused at, every turn I made, I could feel those eyes, heavy, cold, unblinking. My shirt started to cling to my back. I was sweating now, full on. This guy was seriously freaking me out. Every second I kept driving, I couldn't shake the thought that he might just reach over and grab me by the throat, that he might snap right there in my passenger seat and I'd be helpless. Then, finally, I saw it. A gas station, up ahead, just beyond a red light. Relief hit me like a wave, and then the light turned red. Of course. Why now? I thought bitterly, trying to focus anywhere except on the man still locked in a stare beside me. I looked straight ahead, tight grip on the wheel, breathing shallow. But the pressure of his gaze, it hadn't lifted. I couldn't take it anymore. I turned my head slowly, so slowly, and looked at him. His face was inches from mine, expressionless, cold. His eyes met mine and didn't blink, didn't move. It was like his stare cut through me, straight through my pupils and into my spine. A dead, flat gaze that held absolutely nothing human behind it. I swallowed hard. Are you okay?" I asked. No answer. Not really. But he nodded. Barely. Just the faintest, almost imperceptible dip of the head. The light turned green. I turned into the gas station and pulled into the lot. He opened the door slowly and stepped out. Then he just stood there, right at the edge of the sidewalk, watching me. I didn't say a word. I didn't look back. I just pulled away. His figure grew smaller in the rearview mirror, but I could still feel his stare, long after I was gone. As soon as I passed the intersection, I laughed. Not just a little chuckle, but a full, breathy laugh, part joy, part nerves, part disbelief at the sheer ridiculousness of what had just happened. But then, my stomach dropped. Something didn't feel right. I patted my pockets, once, then again, harder, frantic. My chest tightened as panic crept in. I was missing something. My phone. I slapped my hand down onto the passenger seat, the floor, between the cushions. Nothing. I knew I'd left it in the cup holder between the seats. I remembered putting it there. But it was gone. I was only a few blocks away, so I whipped the wheel around and made a U-turn, heart racing, tires screeching as I headed back toward the gas station. When I got there, he was already gone. No one in sight. I searched the area from the driver's seat, then got out and did a quick loop around the lot, checking the sidewalk where he'd stood. Nothing. Not a single trace. I went home, gripping the steering wheel the entire drive with sweaty palms. Once inside, I tore through the house, hoping maybe, somehow I'd been wrong. Maybe I'd dropped the phone before leaving for the store. Maybe it had slid under a table. No, it was gone, vanished. And that phone, it had everything on it. My contacts, my email, my home address, my saved passwords, bank info, everything. I sat on the edge of the couch, staring at the floor, spiraling. I thought about calling the police, but I didn't. I don't even know why. Maybe embarrassment, maybe denial. Maybe I just didn't want to believe the truth. I didn't sleep that night, not a wink. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of wind outside the windows made my muscles tense. I kept picturing his face, his stare, his silence. That cold, blank expression burned into my memory. He had my address. He knew where I lived. The next evening, after finally getting back from our 2-day delayed Thanksgiving dinner, I pulled into the driveway and immediately knew something was wrong. The front door was open. Not just unlocked, open. I stepped inside, heart in my throat. My house was trashed, utterly destroyed. Drawers yanked out, cushions slashed, chairs overturned, paper and broken glass scattered across the floor like confetti from a nightmare. I stumbled back outside and ran to my neighbor's house, banged on the door, and used their phone to call the police. They arrived fast. They went in with their flashlights and searched every inch of the house. He wasn't there, but his fingerprints were. Everywhere, on the doorknobs, on my fridge, my bathroom sink, even on the TV remote. But here's the thing, when they ran the prints, they didn't match anyone. No identity, no record, nothing. Just a stranger, a silent, staring man, now connected to my home, my life, my everything. And still out there. It was Thanksgiving. Half the family was over, packed into the house in that warm, chaotic way holidays always bring. Along with them were our next-door neighbors, Tom and his wife. They didn't have a big family, so every year they came over to celebrate with us, especially to watch the game afterward. It had become a bit of a tradition. Dinner was the usual, hectic, noisy, too much food. But once the plates were cleared, everyone migrated to the living room to watch football. Everyone, that is, except my daughters, Tracy and Michelle. Neither of them were really into football. At the time, Michelle was only 13 and Tracy was 16. They'd both rather disappear into their rooms than sit through a game of tackles and commentary. During halftime, I decided to head upstairs and convince Michelle to come down and join us. It took a little nudging, but she finally caved and followed me back down to the living room. A few minutes later, Tom, a couple of in-laws and I stepped outside to smoke. The cool air felt good after all the heat from the kitchen and bodies inside. Me and Tom struck up a casual conversation. He told me about his son, Sam. Apparently, Sam had gone back home after dinner to be alone and watch movies. He'd been at the house earlier but ducked out before the game. Tom chuckled and joked that Sam was probably just watching porn or something. I laughed a bit, but as my eyes drifted toward the house, something stopped me cold. I looked up at one of the windows. Michelle's room. Someone was looking out the window. My heart skipped. What the hell is Michelle doing back in her room? I thought. But then I froze. That wasn't Michelle. And the more I stared, the more I realized I didn't know who the hell it was. No one had gone inside. At least, no one we saw. I didn't say a word. I just muttered a quick excuse and headed for the door. I pushed through the living room, up the stairs, and straight into Michelle's room. Michelle, confused, followed me in seconds later. "Did someone just come in here?" I asked, my voice sharper than I meant it to be. She blanked. "No, why?" I glanced around. The room was empty, completely still. Not a sound, no movement, nothing out of place. I nudged Michelle gently. "Go back downstairs." She nodded, confused, and walked off. I walked over to her lamp and turned it off. The room dimmed, swallowed by soft shadows. Then I stood there for a moment, just listening. Still nothing. Eventually, I followed Michelle back downstairs. The game was about to start again, and everyone had resettled into the living room. But I couldn't shake it. The image in that window, that face. So, I asked. I finally brought it up to the room full of family and neighbors. "Hey, did anyone go into Michelle's room earlier? Anyone happen to be at the window up there?" They all turned to look at me. One by one, they either said no or just shook their heads. Blank expressions, shrugs. But someone was lying. They had to be. Upstairs, I heard it. Faint but distinct. A soft thud coming from Michelle's room. Without thinking, I bolted up the stairs. Michelle, startled, came running right behind me. I threw open her bedroom door and flicked on the light. The room snapped into focus, but I didn't waste a second. I spun around, eyes scanning every corner like I was chasing a ghost. Nothing in the open. But then, my eyes landed on the closet. The sliding door was cracked open. Just barely. Maybe an inch or two, but enough. enough to see something. There was a shape, still, low, and for a moment I couldn't process it. Then I noticed it. An eye, peeking through the narrow crack, watching me. Everything inside me recoiled. I screamed, loud and sharp, like a child, like the kind of primal sound your body makes before your mind catches up. It lasted maybe 2 seconds before Michelle joined in, gasping and backing away. The sound brought everyone. Relatives thundered up the stairs, voices overlapping with footsteps, but I was already moving. Fueled by instinct, rage, fear, disbelief, I stormed toward the closet and yanked the door open. And there he was. Sam, Tom's son. I grabbed him, my hands clenching around his collar, practically lifting him out of the closet, and dragged him into the open. The room erupted in shouting. Tom burst into the room and found me there, hands on his son's neck, shaking with fury. Sam wasn't empty-handed. He was holding some of Michelle's personal belongings. Things I won't talk about. Things no one should have had in their hands. Things that weren't his. The air was thick with shock, rage, disgust. No one said a word for a moment, just silence and heavy breathing. That moment, it scarred me, and it broke something between us. Whatever friendship I had with Tom and his wife, it didn't survive. It couldn't, not after that. And from that day on, something in me changed. I became more protective, fiercely so, especially when it came to Michelle. Because in the one place she was supposed to feel safest, someone had been hiding in the shadows, just inches away, watching her.